right, so here we go with question number one. Question that's on everybody's mind. How did you get the name Fat Owl?
The Fat Owl. The moniker from yourself. The nickname generating machine. Yeah. It was at the Arnold.
It's kind of rude.
It's a bit rude, but you know, that's what friends are for, right? We were at the Arnold 2014. And we'd met in the past prior to that, and I'd come up and reintroduced and hung out a little bit at the booth. And
we were both really fat. We
were both really fat, so it's good that, you know, pot calling the kettle black for sure. And
pretty gross.
Yeah, I walked up and had glasses on at the time, and I remember leaving, and like you must have looked at Burdick, and you were like, who's that? He's like, it's Matt Vincent. He's a two-time Highland Game world champion. And you're like, that guy's a world champion at something? He looks like a fat owl. Man, it's true.
He does. And you still do.
And I still do, yeah.
After losing all the weight.
I've tried to camouflage with a beard.
Yeah.
There's no hiding it.
Tell me a little bit about some of these tattoos, because you know, you hanging out with you and stuff. You seem. There's
a bunch of them.
You seem normal-ish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the tattoos don't reflect anything normal. You got fucking Frankenstein in there.
Yeah.
Face.
Some portraits, Frankenstein, Leatherface. I'm doing this whole arm. Eventually, it'll be done like horror movie portraits. I always just like those characters. And then this is Mom at 18. I got her senior portrait. And then on the back of the arm is a welding hood with my dad's union number. So that's Dad's portrait.
That's cool.
And so
I didn't know
instead of having his big ugly mug on my arm, I went for the welding hood.
Yeah, something where he has a helmet.
Got Louisiana with the love.
Gotcha.
Kind of always in the South. I've got other stupid stuff like this one here. Says 225, which is 225 for Baton Rouge's area code. At some point, you're just filling space.
Pose a different area.
That's right.
You're trying to get the whole sleeve, because otherwise it looks weird, right?
Yeah, and then I've got a family crest with Vincent, and then
look at him flexing the tricep. He's going over that one.
You have to. It's the only way to show these tattoos off.
Really pressing down on
and then I've got the fleur-de-lis around the back with the magnolia, kind of all Louisiana themed stuff. And the fleur-de-lis, there's 6 of them. Oh, thing we talked about earlier is kind of, you know, you only need 6 friends. 7 don't carry the casket, and so keep 6 close.
Being a Highland Games champion, is it hard to like walk down the street?
Yes.
You get a lot of attention for that?
Mostly from the limp, from my knee not working. Like, what's wrong with that guy? Yeah.
Gangster lean.
Yeah. Not
people know what it is. People know what it is. When
not very often. Typically, the way I go about it is saying, you know, you see the moderately fat guys in kilts throw a telephone pole, and they're like, oh yeah. And then I'm the best at that. That's what you follow up with. Yeah.
How did some of that come to be? How did you get into being a fat guy in a skirt?
Well, I was
a telephone pole.
Moderately good at throwing, and so that got college paid for at LSU, and then went off a few years away from strength stuff. And
went to college?
I snuck through. I went long enough that they eventually said I didn't have to go anymore.
Your mom goes to college.
Your mom goes to college. I love how Smokey is when he says it on the couch to her. It's like, your mom goes to college.
Doesn't make any sense.
None. And then a few years of strongman, powerlifting, kind of just got back into strength stuff and wanted to do everything I could. Found a Highland game to compete in, did it, loved it, and did more of them, and apparently took pretty naturally to it.
How long have you been doing Highland Games for?
This first game was in November 2008, and then competed up until the end of 2016. So about, 8-9 years.
Yeah. So nearly a decade of playing around with Highland Games stuff, and probably about 5 years or so, maybe even a little longer.
Yeah, 7.
Of being on top.
Yeah, 7 of being either number 1 or number 2 in the world.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was a fun run, man. You know, learned a lot of lessons from it, got to see the world, got to meet some really awesome people, and now just kind of running with the good sides of the sport and not having to do any of the beat me up anymore.
So the goal at that time and the goals that you've had set for yourself is probably, you know, always finish as strong as you can, always get that next PR, worried about throwing something a further distance or just doing better, throwing something higher, right?
Right.
Things have shifted quite a bit in your personal life with your job shift.
Yeah.
And things have shifted tremendously with your career path in sports because of this
because of the knee injury,
What exactly happened to the knee?
There's not like a catastrophic failure moment. I tore an ACL in college, got it fixed, re-tore an ACL, didn't get it fixed, and then spent the entire time that I did Highland Games and strongman and powerlifting without an ACL. And then eventually it just gave. Meniscus went, and it's kind of one of those things that like, oh, things are fine. Then like one bit of string gets pulled off that sweater and the whole thing starts going south. So it's just been chasing surgeries now for almost a year and a half of like what's gonna sort it out. And it's kind of at the point now where it's like I've got to get out of pain and get back to normal function of like, can I run? Can I walk upstairs? And so like, you know, it's stupid to be like, oh, I'm gonna get back to Highland Game thing. That's like step 200.
Yeah.
You know, we fix these other things and then I can redecide the rest of them, but got to fix this first.
So the main goal right now is just to figure out a way to get out of pain.
Get out of pain, get healthy to where I can start. I mean, it's not like there's a world, right,
so you
where
took care of some of that situation by losing a lot of weight.
Losing weight helped.
How'd you lose weight?
Man, keto, dealing with you, like being able to, you know, kind of follow a plan and stick to it. You know, being able to mix a lot of advice I'd gotten from, you know, Chrissy May over the years to help with nutrition. Stuff that had worked with my brother, stuff that worked for you, and then, you know, actually finally finding a plan that was livable for me and doing it for 8 months. Amazing.
About how much weight did you end up dropping?
About 50 pounds.
And what would you say to somebody, you know, who's watching this that would think about doing something like that? Like, how do they get started? How do they stay started down the right path for a long 8 months?
Man, if you're gonna make a diet change and make a nutrition change, my big recommendation is for the next 2 weeks, like start now, start next meal, don't worry about tomorrow or any of this shit. Start now and just follow that plan of food, whether you're gonna do low carb or high fat or a bodybuilding style diet and eat 6 meals a day. Like, don't worry about the macros yet or the calories yet. Just maintain eating these foods for 2 weeks.
Right.
And then start chipping away at the other bits. Because chances are, like, you may be so far out of whack that even just the food shift alone changes a lot. So stick to it and then make the smaller change of trying to figure out what your maintenance calories are. I mean, there's some great guides. I mean, just Google, you know, setting up your macros for whatever type of diet and then start there. And if you're gaining weight, drop some calories. If you're losing weight too fast, add a few calories.
Right.
But don't start doing that until you can live this way. I see, you know, people just dive in like, oh, I'm gonna start this diet and I'm gonna meal prep today.
Right.
And you know, best intentions are started, but it's not a long-term plan.
You seem like you're a person that's been able to handle a lot. Like, a lot of things have happened in the last few years. You know, like, you're trying to do all the right things. You had a good job. You were successful at that job. Mm-hmm. You had a nice spot in the Highland Games grand scheme of things, working your ass off to be one of the best in the world consistently for a long period of time. But despite that, sometimes this shit happens that's, you know, kind of out of your control, right?
Yeah, that's how it goes. You know, I mean, I'm glad that I didn't act like a crazy person and pretend that Highland Games was going to pay all my bills.
Right.
You know, I learned a long time ago that depending on my body for a paycheck is probably a bad idea. For as mean as I'm going to be to this thing, it's probably not smart long term. And then the other bit with the job, like the anxiety I'd started to feel, even while I had the job and things were going well, I just always had the feeling that this wasn't going to be permanent. And that's just the way that job industry in the petrochemical field works now. It's like, you're just going to work for other people. Like, no one's going to stay here for 30 years.
Right.
And
your boss also is not going to come to you and say, "Hey, I'm going to double your pay."
No, right, never.
Like,
there's a ceiling.
Yeah. You can make more money every year and have more opportunity,
right.
But it's not going to be like, "Hey, man, you're really killing it.
Yeah, let's double it up.
Double your shit."
Right. But there is that opportunity that they just call and say like, "Hey, we're going a different direction, so we're going to let you go." I'm like, oh, cool.
What direction is that? Because I can switch to that. I can do whatever.
I got really nervous like within the first year that I had the job because they hired a sales manager, hired another sales guy, and hired me. And like 6 months in, fire the other two. And I'm like, oh, this isn't good. I see how this is going. Like, I'm standing outside of a house that's currently getting built, like called my boss. I'm like, what's going on, man? Are you getting ready to fire me? Because I should know. He's like, nope, you're good to go. I'm like, all right, we'll roll on it. But, you know, from that moment on, I just had that feeling of like, never have all my eggs in one basket.
Right.
You know, I've got time. I'm fortunate enough that I have a great job, but that job does have a lot of free time as an outside sales guy. You know, whether that free time is I'm driving or I'm flying or any of this, but I can still work from email.
Right.
And so I basically built the Hate brand in my spare time. You know, I mean, that's what you tell people who say you don't have time, right? I mean, if I have a job that takes 8 hours a day.
You built it up while you had the job.
Yeah.
And you didn't just all of a sudden shift the Hate brand and it came out of nowhere.
Nope.
You had it going for a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, I had 2 years going. I mean, and that in the first year and a half at Hate brand, I didn't get paid.
Right.
You know, that's how it works. You know, you don't just get to turn on that faucet and say like, oh, well, here's money.
Out of here, yeah.
No, you know, you got a business to build.
Yeah.
I mean, and so a lot of the money that comes in goes back to the business.
When it comes to training, almost all training videos I've ever seen you post on Instagram or YouTube and stuff, you're almost always by yourself, except for like when you're on the road.
Yeah, train. You know,
the motivation to train by yourself, you know, for me, can be really difficult. For you, it seemed like it comes easier, but the motivation for you to train yourself now by yourself while you're injured, that's got to be screwed up, right?
Yeah, and man, it's way easier to train by yourself when there's that deadline. And the Highland Games has always been that deadline for me of like, well, I got to go train because I got to leave Thursday to go throw. And so it makes sense that I get in Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday and get the work done, especially because I'm building toward a bigger thing in September.
Now it's
and now it's we're gonna effort. We'll just go in and put in effort.
Right.
And it's the reason why it works is because I love training. I still love lifting and love working out, and I love being in my garage and working and sweating my ass off in there. I feel like I'm doing something.
In Louisiana.
Garage is like 94 degrees. It's just terrible. It's terrible. It's like working out in a sauna. And then, so that part's easy to motivate, and especially with a switch of goal of like trying to drop weight and drop body fat. So now there's a new goal.
Do something new.
So I got to try to do something new. But I definitely miss aspects of training heavy and training the way I want to train. Like I miss having that focus of like attacking the bar.
Right.
I just can't put enough weight on the bar at this point that it ever lines up, and for me, bench has never been the one that's got me that excited. You know, I'd way rather attack like a heavy clean, something that a full body have to fight through, you know?
Right.
But staying motivated, man, I'm excited every day. Like every day that I'm up, I'm excited and I want to do more and I want to go and I want to push myself and put in that effort and put in the work to be better. And so that part's pretty easy to find. And the reason I train alone is because I hate inconvenience. Yeah. It's simply a selfish thing.
You don't want to be on somebody else's watch.
Yeah, someone else's clock has never worked real well for me. And so I can always just get up and go in the garage. I don't need any prep time of, oh shit, now I got to do this and put my bag in the truck and then drive across town. Well, right now the traffic's bad, and if I go, that takes an extra 3 hours. I can be in and out in the garage in 40 minutes.
One more hurdle to try to get over.
Yeah, and I mean, I've even switched up now to where, like, I'll train 3 times a day, but they may be for 30 minutes apiece.
Oh, I gotcha.
You know, go in and bang out, like, one of the circuits like you're doing.
Right.
And, you know, hit 3 or 4 different exercises for 30 minutes until I'm gassed, shut it down, go back to work. It's just something to clear the head.
Right.
It's different. I've been doing pool workouts, like stuff in the backyard.
You mentioned, you know, trying to make progress, you know, like almost like on a daily basis. How does somebody do that when you've been training for so long? Is it the shifting of some of the goals? You move them around a little bit. You do something for a longer period of time, or more reps, or lose weight. Is that?
It's all of it. It's whatever is the new carrot that you can put in front to keep chasing. I mean,
there you go.
The truth of it is,
carrot cake.
I mean, look, people in a post-CrossFit world will call it, dude, I don't count that I have 100 PRs. I don't know what my PR is at 275 or 260 or you know. I have a bench PR, a squat PR, a deadlift PR, and a push press in my clean and snatch. And I will likely never break those again. But that doesn't mean I can't put in the effort and I can't get better than I was today.
Right.
You know, because there may be some weird setback. Hell, on the 15th when I have knee surgery again, I got 8 weeks on crutches.
Right.
I can get better every day.
Well,
It's something.
There's also nothing wrong with saying stuff like that. Like
No.
I've kind of said before, you know, my biggest lifts are in the past.
Yeah.
Now, they could come back around, but just because I made that statement doesn't mean that they can't come back around. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't.
Right.
doesn't shut
Nothing's
that off
impossible.
because
It's not a never.
It's not going to be the words or the motivation. It's going to be the preparation
Yep.
that allows you to do those weights anyway.
And there's some part too, you know, being a grown man and at almost 35
Grown
years
man.
old now, shit, and you're 40, like I know the cost of those lifts,
Right.
and they're a lot different than the cost was at 22.
Yeah. What if you go to do something and
Well, now I can't work.
It's a career ender.
Right.
You
You know what I mean? Like
You can't exercise the same way that you used to, or you're done.
you're just done.
Just out.
Right. You know, and that reward's not worth the risk
Yeah.
for me. Especially training. The lesson training by yourself in the garage taught me was like my ego's fucking out the door.
Right.
Like nobody gives a shit whether I added 5 extra pounds to the bench that day and missed it.
There's no one there watching.
You know what I mean? Like, so
It's
if
you.
I make a bad choice, I'm the one who fights that weight and sits there and looks like a dick.
So with your business stuff, you know, with building up Hate Brand, you mentioned you were building up simultaneously as you had your other
Yep.
job. You built it up well enough to where you got close enough to this goal or close enough to this like financial freedom to where you could see the future of Hate Brand. You could make the jump towards
Yep.
it. You can make that leap and now have a new job, I guess you'd say.
Yep.
When was there a point, or has there been a point, not like where you let up off the gas pedal and like shit's gonna be cool, but where you're like, I'm doing pretty good, and this is trending the direction that I want. Has there been a point like that? Has there been a point where you're like, this is going pretty well, it's going a little bit better than even anticipated,
Yeah.
and I feel comfortable in making that leap to the next thing?
There's a point where I feel like this is working, it's trending the right direction, but there's never been a point where this is comfortable,
Yeah.
let's relax.
Right.
It's like I don't
Maybe
understand
same-
people talking about working out for maintenance.
Maybe
What the fuck
same.
do you mean?
So same thing with Highland Game, like being a Highland Games champion.
Yeah.
You're not like, oh, I'm in a good spot, I'm just gonna hang out.
Like, what do you mean hang out? No, we're gonna get better or we're getting worse. There's only 2 options.
Right.
And maintenance is worse. That means I'm not getting
Just
better.
trying to maintain.
Right. That doesn't make any sense to me. No, it's full speed ahead. And it's try to figure out what's the next thing, or how do we do more, or any number of things that you're gonna do to try to build the next thing. And that's the fun part too. It's this puzzle. Because there isn't this written script of like, do X, it equals this. It's a lot of it's making up it as we go.
Right.
In my business model, we both sell shirts, but it's wildly different than yours.
Yeah.
But that's, neither one are wrong.
Right.
It just,
There's room for other people to make money too.
tons.
You don't have to try to hoard
Man,
everything.
there's no X amount of success out there. We can literally all be doing just fine.
Right.
Look, until Under Armour starts trying to buy me out because they feel like I'm too much competition, we'll do just okay. You know what I mean? We're not even a blip.
Who motivates you, inspires you most?
Man, it's such a big mixture. And it's little personality traits from a lot of people that I see that I want
You
to.
said little person.
Little person.
You did. You said
I've been
little
watching a lot of Game of Thrones, and Tyrion to me has been the one.
I've been watching Ryan Spencer on Super Training videos.
Man, it's surrounding myself with people that are doing better than me, and that I can learn from. As well as just be friendships. I hate saying it like that. That the network I'm building is simply for the network. That's not true. But
They say your network is your net worth.
yeah, and like it's you, it's Kelly, it's Jesse, it's Chrissy, it's my wife. My wife for being a person that's far more patient and tolerates things better than I do. Dude, if the tables were right, if the tables were turned and she said, I'm gonna be gone half the month every month.
I'm gonna make t-shirts.
Right, like I would be like, no, this isn't gonna work. I'm far too needy for this to work out the other way, me stay at home and her.
I'm gonna make t-shirts that say that I'm mad.
Right.
You'd be like, no.
No, it's a dumb idea. But no, man, she's that full support, and her being behind me 100%. Like that fires me up. My brother, my brother's, different life than me, but, we both managed to do well in sports and always kind of push each other.
Yeah, your brother did okay. He played like pro football.
Yeah, played a couple, NFL, NFC.
Yeah, something like that.
NCS. She did that, and then, has done Highland Games and was professional strongman for a couple years.
Yeah,
and
he's a beast.
Big boy, and he's motivating to do his thing.
I remember your brother when you guys were raiding my garage.
Yeah.
By the way, no one's ever stole more shit. The Starretts might have this guy beat, but
that's
the
true.
Vincent brothers came and they stole everything that I had, every slingshot thing, every pair of shoes
We're product testing.
But his brother is like, I'm a size 14 shoe, and I was like, well, I have, or maybe a 15.
He's 15.
And I was like, well, I have the Reebok Powerlifting shoe. We made it wide specifically. I have a 14, and I guarantee you it's gonna fit. Well, he takes his shoe off, and I've never seen a foot that freaking large before in my life.
It's just wide.
Yeah, it was like as wide as a dinner plate, but even longer. And I was like, damn, maybe these won't fit. And they didn't even come close.
No, he's a legit 15.
His toe is like the size of my entire foot.
I can shapeshift in shoes. Like I can wear a 14 pretty comfortably, or I can wear a 13, or if I'm competition shoes, for competing and throwing, I wear an 11 and a half.
You guys stole everything I had.
We had to. Well, you had too much stuff.
That's true.
It was clearly you were overpacked with things.
Any books that motivate you? Any books that have that you've read in the last 2-3 years that have helped you quite a bit, business-wise?
Business-wise, not really.
Or podcasts or anything like that?
Podcast, I listen to a lot of Rogan, and for me, what I get from Rogan is, man, that guy stays pretty much in his lane, and he follows whatever his compass finds interesting.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're never going to see Rogan do the thing.
He's telling you what's cool.
Yeah, but he's never going to do the thing to chase the views.
Right.
He's going to stick to his thing, and that's going to work out or it doesn't. But at least at the end of the day, he's him.
Right. That makes sense.
And I mean, fuck. He said it on his thing a lot of times. What's the point of having fuck you money if you don't get to say fuck you?
Right.
And Rogan does his own thing. I mean, that's a position I would love to be in, even if it's on a smaller level. I'm not rich. I don't have a ton of cash coming in, but I'm very comfortable. I live in Louisiana. It's cheap to live there. I get to travel whenever I want to and go wherever I want to go. And it's been great. And I've got a certain level of income that I'm comfortable.
Right.
I don't have to try to, oh man, how are we going to pay the mortgage next month?
Yeah. And
there's freedom that comes from that. And, I think that, do your own thing and do it well and be yourself, because, man, I'm just not I don't have a good enough memory to be a liar. And if I've been selling bullshit, I can't remember the bullshit I've sold.
Selling bullshit. I love that.
That's no good. There's no difference in me figuring out, well, how do I get to I can walk upstairs again, than, well, how do I get to a 400-pound bench? There's steps. And I've learned over the course of the last 20 years of lifting that there is a systematic approach. Let's make small progress without setbacks all the way along the way, and eventually we get there. Can I do it tomorrow? No. Can I do it in 6 months? Let's find out. Let's readjust in 3 and figure out if that plan needs to be extended. I mean, I don't have a meet to get ready for.
Right.
It's the rest of my life. And so it's just gonna be an ongoing chase. But I learned all of that from the gym. That hard work done in a systematic, periodized and pointed in a direction, typically gets you where you're going.
Without even a lot of science behind it, just doing it, executing it.
Effort will outweigh a good plan executed poorly.
100%. All right, guys, that's all the time we got. That's Matt Vincent, Hate Brand Goods. Strength is never a weakness. Catch y'all later.